get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Mina Elias. I don't know how many companies you have, Mina, at this point, but we have Trivium Group, which is triviumco.com. He also has a MMA nutrition brand, all right? And that's gohardwork.com, all right? And we'll pull that up because it's not with the vowels, hard work. But, before I formally introduce you, Mina, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And let's see here. Since this is last time I talked to Mina was maybe a couple of years ago, he did not have an agency. He's grown super fast. And so I like to mention some of the top agency interviews I've done. I had Jason Swank on. I had 2 interviews with him, Mina. They're interesting. One, he built his agency up to 8 figures and then sold it. And then the second one is he's been buying up agencies, and he talks about kind of the valuation process and how he's been doing that. And also Kevin Hurrigan of Spinia Tech. He's had an agency since 1995. So seeing the evolution of his company and his services and the internet and everything like that, it was fascinating to hear his journey through that and many more on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the accountability, the strategy, and the full execution, production of the show. And we call ourselves the magic elves that work in the background to make sure it makes it look easy for the host so they can just have the conversation and run their business. We handle everything else. For me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I've found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com to learn more. And I'm excited to introduce Mina Elias. He's a multiple 7-figure seller in the supplement industry, which we'll talk about. And he's an Amazon PPC expert. He's learned by trial and error and in the trenches from his own brand, and founder of Trivium Group. And Trivium Group's an Amazon advertising agency. Mina's developed supplements for different target audiences, and he combines his passion for supplements. His background is actually in chemical engineering and his expertise in PPC, and he does that all to win on Amazon and help his clients win on Amazon. And he's consulted for over 400 brands. And he runs Trivium, where they help brands actually scale ads and create winning strategies on Amazon. And, some of the things they do: sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display, sponsored brand video, anything paid ads, call him. He knows what he's doing. So, Mina, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. What an introduction, man. I love it. And thank you for mentioning those episodes about other founders, because it's very interesting. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. So that's going to be pretty valuable. I'll probably check those out today. I have a lot of, I have some time where I can listen to a couple podcasts. There's always some driving happening, when you're in LA. So, it's always good to have some episodes kind of saved for later.
Put it on 2 times speed and have at it.
Exactly.
Mina, I want to kind of start with your brand. You kind of cut your teeth on it, but I want to go back a little bit with the immigrant mindset. Okay. You came to the States in 2011 for college, right? To study engineering. At that time, what was your thought of what you wanted to do?
Great question. Great question. And it's a good question because I was very adamant about what I wanted to do. But I grew up in Dubai. I was born in Egypt, grew up in Dubai. And in Dubai, you're taught, it's a little bit like racist, but in a different way of racist, where basically, like, if you're American or Canadian, you get paid a lot more and you get treated better. You can have better positions than if you're, let's say, Egyptian. So the goal was, I'm going to get really good grades. I'm going to go to college. in America or in Canada, graduate, get a good job, and work up the corporate ladder, become a citizen, and then move back, and then like live a very easy and happy life there. And so that was my plan. I came to America in 2011, got my bachelor's in chemical engineering and in chemistry, 2 bachelors, and I got my master's in the industrial engineering. And when I graduated from my bachelor's, I got a job at Medtronic, which is surgical devices, the biggest one probably in the country, and worked in new product development and started working really, really hard. And my goal was, and I was like, anything else is not good enough. My goal, my mission was to get into corporate and then work up the ladder until I became a vice president, president, whatever, and do it very, very, very hard.
So then when did things change?
Things changed when I started working up the corporate ladder, right? And I got my first job there at Medtronic, worked, realized that it's like, okay, you're in a cubicle, stay in your box, don't do anything. A lot of politics involved. And I'm not a politics guy. I'm a very honest, direct, just non-politics guy. So, then I moved to a different company. And I got a big pay raise, and I started working up the corporate ladder there. And it was wake up in the morning, go to work. Wake up in the morning, work out, commute, go to work, commute back, and then train MMA and sleep. And I'm like, okay, it's all good. It's all good. Like, this is what I want, right? This is the dream. Then I moved to another job, another pay raise, again, working up. Same thing. I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning, commuting 45 minutes to work, working for 9 hours, commuting back, training MMA, sleeping. And then my boss calls me into her office and says, hey, you've shown the most potential I've ever seen in anyone we've ever had in our company. Do you see yourself running this company in the next 5 to 10 years? I said, absolutely. That's my goal. My goal is to kind of, work my way to the top. And then I was driving home and I was like, dude, imagine if I became her. I would show up earlier than I show up because I need to be everyone's boss. I'll show up later than I show up right now. What is this life? This is a horrible, horrible life. That's when it really it clicked. I was like, what am I even signing up for? I'm signing up to wake up in the morning every day at 4:30 to work out and then commute and then come back. And then I can't, when am I going to do MMA when I have kids? When can I even have kids? All of this stuff. And so I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And I didn't even see an end in mind. I'm like, is this the next 10 years of my life? Is the next 30 years of my life? And that's when it hit me. I'm doing the wrong thing. Something's wrong. Something's, very, very wrong. And that's when it all changed. And that's when I started looking into, I started talking to people saying, yeah, I don't know, guys. I feel lost. I thought this is what I wanted to do, and the problem is I'm so good at it. I'm the best engineer you could ever hire because I work incredibly hard. I work incredibly fast. I have a lot of attention to detail. I'm very problem solving, kind of person. Nothing stands in my way. The only issue is I hate being caged and being told what to do. But I'm a great entrepreneur. I'll own anything. I mean, I was running $12 million in projects. They gave me a $6 million water main project. And I ran that shit. I saved them $300,000 in one day because I was on top of everything. And so, I mean, I'm like, what do I do? I don't even know. But I've always loved supplements ever since I was a kid. My parents would leave me. They would go to the mall and I'm like, you'll find me in GNC, finish all of your stuff and I'll be there. And I literally would spend I read every single magazine. I looked at every single supplement. And so I don't know. I was like, maybe I should do something in supplements. And that's kind of how the shift started from I'm an engineer to let's maybe try something different. And I'm like, let's start a supplement brand. And I got the idea because I was on vacation in Egypt. It was September of 2018. And I was researching a lot of supplements like I always do. And I know every single supplement, what it does. And if I don't, then I go look at clinical studies and all of this stuff and where it's being used. And then I'm like, my dad's like, why are you researching so many supplements? I'm like, well, okay, I need to buy like this product, but it's not good enough on its own. So I want to combine this and this and this and all of this stuff. And he's like, why don't you just make your own supplements? I'm like, that's what I do at home. He's like, no, 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 like actually make your own products. And I was like, that's out of reach. Like, that costs like what, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's like, how much would it actually cost to start a business? And that was the trigger. That is like, okay, how much does it actually cost? I looked into it. I'm like, okay, you see these like ingredients: sodium, magnesium, potassium. Before that, it was only taurine before the blend, but it was like, okay, sodium like bicarbonate, magnesium citrate, potassium bicarbonate, and taurine. If I bought those raw ingredients in bulk on Amazon and mixed up this product, how much would it cost? And it was like $4. And then I said, okay, let's add like $1 for labor, so it's going to cost me $5. And it's selling for $30 on Amazon, like the average supplement, electrolyte supplement. I said, maybe there's something there. And I called a friend. I'm like, how do you have a company? Like, what do you do? He had a company. His name is PG Sports, Paul Reno, and has like this merch brand. And he's like, just go to LegalZoom.com and sign up. I'm like, okay. I went to LegalZoom.com, $400 to sign up for an LLC. Done. Signed up for an LLC. Like brought the raw ingredients to my house. Came back from Egypt after the vacation that was already there. I started mixing them and I started taking them. And I'm like, you know what? I feel a difference, but I might be biased. So I started giving them to my friends. And I told them that this was like a beta from a different company. There was no flavors or anything. It was just unflavored. And they started mixing it. I'm like, guys, like the best is just mix it with some Mio water or some pre-workout. And they would mix it with Mio water. And, after like a few days, they're like, dude, I feel like I have a lot more endurance in MMA. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably the sodium, the high amount of sodium and potassium you're losing, because we all drink a gallon a day. Like at MMA, everyone's walking with their gallon with their name on it. And I'm like, you're drinking a ton of water, sweating out like crazy, and you're never replenishing your electrolytes. And that's it. That was me starting a supplement brand.
I love it. I want to dig into this a little bit, but how did you get into MMA?
I mean, I've always liked to fight as a kid, and 2013, I was on like a gap year sort of thing, where you like intern and do like less college work. My friend from home was in Texas. He studied like pre-med in Waco, Texas. He's like, I just joined an MMA gym and I love it, man. They're teaching me all these cool things, and I'm like, damn, like I can't let someone else like learn how to fight better than me. And so I looked up MMA gyms near me, and Renzo Gracie showed up like 1 mile from my house. It was one of the Renzo Gracie gyms. And so I called them. I'm like, hey, I want to come in for a trial. They're like, sure. Come in today, 7:45. We can get you in for wrestling. I showed up. I did wrestling. And then they're like, okay, what do you think? I'm like, I want to sign up. They're like, okay, it's a 1 year membership. I'm like, sign me up. And I never looked back. 2013, I started. To this day, I train 3 or 4 times a week.
What have you learned from training? You've also done competitions too. I mean, it's pretty intense. I want to give a shout out my friend Craig Diamond, Diamond MMA. I don't know if you've heard of his product.
I use the Diamond Cup. No, me and I
Okay.
helped Craig with some of his YouTube stuff. Yeah, I used the
I think
Diamond
I introduced you guys. Maybe that's yes.
Yeah.
And he's got a premium jock system with a cup. And if you watch online, he's got pro fighters basically kicking him over and over in the groin, and it's pretty entertaining. And he's been mentioned on Joe Rogan a couple times too. So shout out to Craig and what he's doing there. But what have you learned from, I mean, it's hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, shout out to Craig for creating the best cup in the game, because the Diamond Cup is the gold standard. So if you're doing any sort of sports where you can get hit in the balls, I highly recommend
exactly
the Diamond Cup. I mean, what did I learn? I learned a lot. Honestly, it shaped my mindset, and is, I think, the reason that I do well in business, or at least feel like I'm doing, well in business. And one thing it taught me is obviously like there's absolutely no excuses. With a lot of sports like soccer, basketball, whatever it is, you can show up and you can say, well, this guy did this, that guy did that. My coach would tell me, listen, like if you lost, you lost. It's on you. It's because you suck. Like it's because you didn't train. Like, could you have trained harder? Could you have trained more intentionally? Could you have dieted better? Did you go out and drink? Did you not sleep perfectly? The answer is always like yes, and so it's like, okay, cool. So that's on you. And so it taught me that. It taught me like that basically the result is a sum of my actions. And then it took like some reinforcement from like Grant Cardone when I read his book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, where it's like, basically like you are the sum of the decisions. Your life is the sum of the decisions that you've made. And that's when like I really woke up and I'm like, yeah, I actually, my car is a, trash piece of trash Honda because of the decisions I'm making. I live in like a little house where I rent one of the 3 rooms because of the decisions that I'm making. It's not life. I don't have an incredible job. And it's not because like that's the hand life is dealing me. It's because of my decisions. And so that's one thing that it taught me. Another thing that it taught me is progress over perfection, because you get humbled very, very, very quickly the second that you step in an MMA gym, because you could be whatever, and some old 55-year-old guy will just like tap you out 100 times. And it still happens to me. Like this old 55-year-old like brown belt will like choke me out in 16 different ways, even though I'm incredibly athletic and more athletic than almost anyone in there. It's like you get humbled very quickly. So it teaches you to accept loss and say something like it's not like what do they say? You say you either win or you learn. It's not you win or you lose, you win or you learn. So I learned how to fail forward. And every single time, let's say I do something, I take a shot and I make a mistake and I get choked out or whatever, I end up in a bad position. It was more of like I learned from that. It's not that it wasn't like a loss. It was like a learning lesson.
One of my favorite videos on that front, Mina, is my friend Dan Fajal, awesome entrepreneur. He actually talks a lot about one of your favorite topics, AI. He is like I know your opinions on AI, but Dan really is very knowledgeable. And one of my favorite, like when I want to get motivated, I'll watch him. This is Dan. If you're watching the video part, this is Dan. And it's called Dan Fajal versus the Giant. Because this guy, I don't know if he was like an all-American wrestler. I won't tell you the ending. You probably guessed the ending. But Dan is a tiny guy. And this video is 30 seconds, right? And he makes the guy tap out in like less than 30 seconds. So watch this video. But anyways, you were saying, I want to talk about building a brand, right? You took, you're working as an engineer, and we're looking at hard work. If you're watching the video, it's Go Hard Work, HRDWRK.com. And actually, I just posted about something. Someone should have mentioned your brand. I posted on something on Facebook maybe like a couple months ago, and I was like, I want something that for workout that has no sugar in it, because a lot of the stuff is packed with sugar. A lot of these other ones are packed with sugar. I'm like, I don't want something with caffeine, and this is exactly what I was looking for. So I totally blanked that you had this brand. So I'm going to have to buy it. Actually, how did you decide on the flavor profiles?
I didn't. So basically, I went to my manufacturer and I said, what can you make that's delicious? And he's like, listen, like the top, like most popular that work with your ingredients would be blue raz and would be mango pineapple. Now, there's a misconception, I think, in how like products are flavored, is that you go and you're like, okay, I have this product and I like this flavor, so that's what we're going to do. But the reality is the raw ingredients have their own flavors, like the active ingredients. Caffeine is very bitter. Like citrulline is incredibly bitter. So some of these ingredients taste like very, very bad. So you have to like do a flavor profile that kind of works with those flavors. That's why like a lot of the pre-workouts are like a very acidic type of flavor because of the caffeine and the beta alanine and those like ingredients that are in it. So I went to him and I said, this is my unflavored raw version. Can you tell me what should I flavor it? And he's like, well, listen, based on the ingredients, we can definitely do a blue raz, and we can definitely do a mango pineapple. He sent me those. He sent me a fruit punch one, and I'm like, okay, let's go with the blue raz and with the mango pineapple. Those were the top two. I launched the blue raz first, and then the mango pineapple after.
Love it. So talk about, I mean, we'll transition and talk about the agency, but I mean, you are your own, case study, and you are your own, test subject when it came to growing it. So what were the things that worked for you? What did you find didn't work for you when you're growing this?
Yeah, so I realized that there's kind of two ways to go about selling. One is like, I have a friend, his name is Sean Torbody. He owns Ambrosia and, One Soul, a few like brands. And there is you build a brand that's going after a certain demographic, a certain type of customer. You have like an ideal customer in mind. All of your messaging and everything speaks to that customer, et cetera, et cetera. You start driving traffic, on social channels, like, disruptive ads and things like that. And then there's the other way, which I kind of discovered, which is that you can build a brand on Amazon. And it's basically you're going after capturing demand. So people have a demand for a certain thing. They're going in, they're looking for, a credit card holder. They're going in, they're looking for like a mouse pad tracker, whatever. And they're looking to see what's the best product that fits my needs based on the keyword that I searched, that has like, great reviews, a great price, and I'm going to go with that. And so me being an absolute noob at business, I didn't understand anything. I mean, I was just an engineer, didn't understand anything about marketing, branding, nothing like that. I kind of went the Amazon route, and to this day, I mean, if you ask me, like, would you consider yourself a strong brand builder? I would say no. I would consider myself probably like a weak brand builder. But I am an incredible Amazon guy, and I'm able to understand the demand in the market. And back then, I didn't understand the demand in the market. I just had a demand, and my demand was a sugar-free electrolyte powder. And so I built that product, and when I got it on Amazon, I said, okay, what is the demand? And then I found all of the keywords related to that demand, which is sugar-free electrolyte powder, unflavored electrolyte powder, sugar-free hydration powder, sugar-free electrolyte supplements. All of these like electrolyte powder, electrolyte supplements, hydration product keywords. And then I started marketing, and then I started understanding, okay, people are typing these keywords, and then they see me in the search, and and it's a bodybuilding competition. They see me and they see my competitors, and then they make a decision, and that's what determines my click-through rate. So I started looking into, okay, what are the factors that affect my click-through rate? Well, it's my main image, it's my price, it's my reviews, it's my star rating, it's my price per ounce, or my price per serving. It's my speed of shipping. It's if I have a badge or a coupon or a discount or whatever. And so I started split testing those things, and I started learning, okay, what do I need to showcase versus what will attract the people based on what they're searching. And then I'm like, okay, what do those people actually want once they look into my listing? Because you're disqualifying products. I don't know, but Jeremy, I want to hear your thoughts here. The last time you bought a product, was your process like this? You go into Amazon, your wife says, hey, we need a popcorn bowl at home. So you type in like a popcorn bowl. You go in and you're like, okay, cool. This one looks like it has a good image, good price, good reviews. You click on it, and then you go through the pictures, and you're looking for why it wouldn't be a good fit. And if you find something, then you exit out and you go on to the next one. And if you don't find anything, you check, you double check, you make sure, you're like, okay, this kind of fits all of my needs. I couldn't disqualify it, so I'm going to end up buying that one. Is that your process?
Yeah, I mean, I typically like to get recommendations, but yes, like I will typically put, like, let's take electrolytes, for example. Like I posted on Facebook, I'm looking for something for pre and post workout that does not have sugar and does not have caffeine. Go. Right. And then, but I did do some separate research on Amazon, just like what you're saying. And yeah, I am eliminating things. I'm looking for things to eliminate it, right? Like, oh, this one has, sugar. This one has caffeine. This one, I mean, some of them are horrendous, like as far as like images wise. They have like one or two images and they don't give me the information I want, right? So it becomes very apparent as like a consumer, the stuff that is lacking out there.
Exactly. And so that's what I went to do, right? I'm like, okay, how can I reduce the chance of elimination? Well, I need to give all of the information in my images. I need to make sure that my bullet points capture all the keywords that people are looking for. I need to have, reviews with images. My A plus content should sell my product even more. Anything that I couldn't touch on in the images. There's a question section. So I'm going to ask all of the frequently asked questions. So if you say, how much caffeine is there per serving, or is this caffeine free? There's immediately an answer. Yes, this is caffeine free. And so I started doing that. And, over time, the product started getting better and better results. I started driving more traffic with the ads. And that's kind of how I built the brand. I would say it's not as good as, because it's a marketplace dependent brand. And the truth of the matter is, I fully depend on and rely on Amazon. And if Amazon went away tomorrow, that brand would be nothing. So I'm taking that chance, right? And thankfully, that's not my main source of income. Yeah. But people that build brands, right? They are building social influence. They're building traffic through multiple channels like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Maybe like SEO, blog content, whatever, paid Google search, paid Google traffic. So, people who build brands, I think, build a much more well-rounded, think like Liquid IV, Neurogum is a great example. They're on Shark Tank. So think of those kind of brands like Athletic Greens, like those big brands. Orgain, they're very well rounded. They're everywhere, and one sales channel will not affect their business. But it's a lot more difficult, right? And it's a much steeper curve than Amazon. And for me, I was like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just trying to figure something out because I don't know anything about anything. And my first website was built on Squarespace, and it did not have e-commerce functionality, because I didn't even know what e-commerce functionality was. So that's kind of where I started. So Amazon was a huge blessing for me. And being an engineer-minded person, I love being driven by data and constantly split testing things. So for me, it was like, okay, let's break down every part of Amazon. And it's like, let's look at the images. How can I make this better? And it was okay, cool. I can make it black or white, because I can say, let's try this image, let's try that image. And whatever the data says, follow that. And then let's try this image. And then with the title, let's try this keyword, let's try that keyword. Well, this keyword has more, search volume than that keyword. Let's look at the data. Oh, okay, that worked. Let's try this keyword in the paid search versus that keyword. Well, this keyword I spent, $10 and made 30 in sales. That keyword I spent $18 with no sales. I'm going to spend less on that one, more on that one, and then repeat the process. So as a data-driven, like very engineer type, brain, I also lack, I think, the ability to like connect with B2C, customers. Like I'm a great B2B person, because I'm a very logical, numbers kind of guy. And I feel like I'm not that great at like, appealing to the emotions of people in terms of like how customers make decisions. They make them emotionally. So I found a lot of success on Amazon through that, because it was a very, data and numbers platform, less about emotions, more about this is better than that sort of thing, an if-then statement.
I think, we'll talk about it, and you hit on something interesting, because from an agency owner perspective, you found out all these components can affect sales, right? There's a lot of components that affect sales. You chose to really niche your services into one thing, even though so I'm curious of the decision on that, right? Because it takes somewhat of some discipline on that to say, listen, I know all these things affect it. I know we could probably help. And I'm sure you get requests. Hey, can you help me with my bullets? Can you help me with the images? Can you help me with that? But you've made a conscious decision, at least at this point, to say, we're not going to do that. We're just going to focus on the paid components. So talk about that, that decision.
Yeah. So that decision came from me not wanting to do anything I don't feel like I can be the best in the world at. And when it came to, paid ads, I feel like I can be the best in the world, like the entire world. And you can call on anyone else who thinks they can be the best in the world. We could definitely have a conversation. But I feel like I'm there. I feel like I have that potential to be the best in the world. Now, when it comes to like creative, when it comes to like Facebook, Google, email, whatever, I didn't have that. So I had to make a decision early on. And I said, am I going to focus on something that I can be the best in the world at? Or am I going to start focusing on whatever because, I can make some more money? And decided to stick to, paid ads. So we do paid ads, Amazon PPC. We do Amazon DSP, demand side platform. We started doing Google traffic specifically for ranking keywords on Amazon. So not for actual like sales purposes. And so we stay very, very laser focused on how can I be the best in the world? How can Trivium be the absolute best in the world at paid traffic on Amazon, paid search on Amazon? And so that's where I stuck. Now, in the future, when we get a lot bigger, if I can acquire a company I feel like has the potential to drive results, or maybe I can acquire a team or find assemble a team that I can be the absolute best in the world, at creatives for Amazon, then I can. Again, I might struggle with that because I know I can be, an incredible best in the world numbers guy. So it made sense in the paid search side. So I would actually have to bring on someone that I think can be best in the world at the creative side, because I can't. And so that's kind of where, and I'm okay being, just really, really, really good at one thing. Think of me as like a brain surgeon as opposed to an MD, a general, like a family practitioner. I can specialize in one type of brain surgery and that's it. And everyone in the world who needs that brain surgery will come to me, and that's that.
Talk about, NeuroGum for a second. You mentioned them earlier and some of the things that you worked on with them.
Yeah, so I love NeuroGum. I like to use them as a case study because, well, first of all, because of the founders, right? Those guys are, they were telling me a story about talk about like hustle, right? They found like a McDonald's promotion where if you bought anything on the menu, you could get like a McDouble or whatever for free. And so
is this them right here?
That's them. That's them.
Yep.
And so for 1 year, they lived on buying a 99-cent drink and getting a McDouble for free. And that was their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's how they saved all of their money. And those guys came from like 6-figure 9-to-5 jobs. Both of them, Ryan and Kent, very, very good friends. So, I mean, I love them for that, but this is like the definition of a good brand when it comes to creating a solution to a problem that's better than everyone else's solution. And then when they were on Amazon, they came to us and it was very like, the problem with them is they've been mentioned on Joe Rogan. They were on Shark Tank, and it was very, very hard to cut through the noise. Like, what is working? Are people looking for you when it comes to the keyword NeuroGum? Are they typing in NeuroGum? Did they come because of Joe Rogan? Did they come because of Shark Tank? And that's like where, we broke down. I take pride in our analytics being like one of the most detailed and granular and one of the best analytics out there on the market. So we're able to segment everything so clear and say, listen, if I blend all of your results, this is your performance. If I look at your individual products on a non-branded performance, like just like paid, this is your performance. It's shit for these keywords. It's good for these keywords. And so we really started breaking things down. And I mean, they've, I think, doubled at least the revenue. Their biggest problem right now on Amazon is they can't keep enough stock. Like that's their problem, right? Is the second that we are getting on Amazon, we're able to move the product so well because it's such a good product. Our marketing is dialed in, our creatives are dialed in, our SEO is dialed in. So they're one of the brands that we take pride in, not only because it's a good brand and we're able to make it work, but it's one of those brands that it's so easy to hide behind Joe Rogan and Shark Tank and take credit. But we show them exactly what we can take credit for and what we can't take credit for, and that's helped them tremendously in making decisions. And I also love them because whenever we try something new, we're like, hey, we're gonna try like this thing or that thing. They're like the first ones to like wanna like do it. They're like, yeah, like let's try it out. We trust you with our life, basically. When it comes to Amazon. So that's one client like we really love.
Mina, you've grown tremendously fast in the past couple of years. At this point in time, you're over 70 people. I'd love to talk about hiring. And again, you're very data oriented and hiring funnels.
Amazing. So I think that's like one of the things that I never thought that I would have to work on so much, but we had to work on so much because there is a very delicate balance as we grow the business. And I've been blessed to have a mentor that's kind of guided me and shown me the future, essentially, of where I was going to fail before I did. And there's a very delicate balance between sales, operations, and hiring. It's like, think of it like an equation, it's like a 1-to-1-to-1. The second that you have more of one, the others become a limiting factor. If you have less of one, it becomes the limiting factor. For me, sales has never been the problem because I built a personal brand in Amazon, through sharing. And this is before I ever had the agency. I mean, we did the podcast before I had the agency. And this was just through sharing everything that I could share that was very valuable. So I would come on to podcasts, I would go on to YouTube channels, I would go into Facebook groups, and I would just give away everything that I've learned from my experience. I built up a personal brand. So when I started the agency, sales weren't a problem. Operations, were okay. And as a small team, they were fine. And I've been lucky that I am a very like systems oriented person. So operations really weren't a struggle. Where it became a struggle was hiring. And my hiring was very, and I think a lot of people can relate. Our hiring was very like, we don't really have a system. Like, let's try this recruiter. Let's post a job posting here. Like I didn't really have numbers. I started like asking people in the company. I'm like, come on, guys, can anyone refer anyone? I would post in like some groups. Does anyone have like a good virtual assistant I could hire? And that was my hiring process. And that was absolutely a disaster to fail. If I'm like, okay, in my sales number, I have this many, I'm doing this much outreach. I have this many leads. This percentage of them are becoming sales calls. This percentage of them are closing and so on. So I had those numbers. I'm like, why don't I have those numbers for recruiting? And so I hired a recruiter and we started building an actual hiring funnel. And I said, you know what? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to have 10 amazing candidates and I'm just going to hire the best one. And then if I need another one, I'm going to have a line to pick from. And so we started building our ads. I said, okay, first I need like a full like funnel. I'm like, where can we post? Where can we get eyeballs? Where can we get impressions? I treated it exactly like our like ads funnel, right? I'm like our ads for like Amazon, right? Is that you launch a campaign, you get impressions, and then a certain number of those impressions click, and that's your click-through rate, and a certain number of those people are like unique sessions, and then you have a conversion, and that's your conversion rate. So I'm like, okay, what are our efforts? What can we control? What are the levers that can pull? I'm like, okay, we can post this many jobs on this many platform. We have LinkedIn, we have Roboto, we have Indeed, we have this, we have that. We have these recruiters, that recruiters. Everything needs to lead into like a funnel. And so we created a form and we said, that's our job application form that qualifies as much as we can and collects all the information. So that was now like, first there was like things that we can control, like lead measures, right? Things that we can like posts, whatever, maybe ad spend on these posts. Then we have the actual, like, let's say consider them like candidates is the job applications. Then a certain percentage of those candidates are qualified versus unqualified. Then a certain number of those people, make it to the first interview or sorry, they make it to an initial test. So the first interview was with the HR person and I was the HR person. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to get like, 8 hours a day in calls from people that are not qualified. So I created a test and I'm like, okay, you fill out the form. If you pass, then I give you a test. And this test simulates like, things that you would be doing on a day-to-day job. So for our ads people, A lot of it is in Excel. So I'm like, do this in Excel, do that in Excel, write this thing for me, write that thing for me. And I'm like, let's see how they are as a person. Like, do they have the foundation? I just have to teach them how to run the ads. Or let's say like they're being hired for social media or whatever. I'm like, do they know how to do social media? Can you write a post? Can you do this? Can you choose a hashtag for me? Or, do they not have that experience? Then the people that would come out of that would go to the HR interview. Then that would lead into, so I learned the hard way. I did an HR interview. I'm like, okay, great. Let's do a final interview. I like this person. Let's hire them. And then I started losing people because when they were on the job, it seems like that they did incredible in the test, but then they completely failed in the job. So maybe they were being cheated, or maybe they were cheating, or maybe they were like being helped by someone. So I'm like, okay, let's do a live test. So we would go from, a pre-test to an initial interview to a live test where I'm like, okay, open up your Google, do this, do that, show me this, show me that. And then they would go into a final interview, and then they would be hired. And so I started building the recruiting exactly like I built, my sales essentially. And then I'm like, okay, recruiting is working. But then I started making mistakes where it's like I'm onboarding someone and they're like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, okay, do this and do that. And so my first ever hire, I learned that the hard way, because my first ever hire, I brought them on and I feel like they completely failed in everything that I gave them. And so that was when I'm like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And someone said, you should read the book E-Myth Revisited. So I read the book E-Myth Revisited and I'm like, okay, got it. I'm hiring people incorrectly. When I hire someone, there needs to be, unless I'm hiring like someone who's incredibly experienced, but there needs to be an onboarding program or whatever, onboarding system where it's like, here's the company policies, here's everything you need to know about your job, here's your KPIs, now here's the standard operating procedures for every single task that you need to do, here's the general company processes. So I started sitting down in whatever division and I'm like, okay, let's outline all of the processes visually. Here, let's say like, you're doing ads. First thing you're going to do, evaluate this, then you're going to do this, do that. So it was visually there. Then each of those steps, like mini steps, had a standard operating procedure, which was a video on the best way to do it, along with like screenshots and step-by-step and arrow and stuff like that. And so now we have our processes down to, but even then, like today, I just spent an hour improving our hiring because our hiring was good, but visually we could have been better. And I saw this like software, Manital, which is like a pipeline for your recruiting process. So I just rebuilt it into Monday, where any candidate that fills out our job form application gets pushed into Monday. And the status is basically in the Monday like task or item or whatever. It's like a card, and it has all the information possible about a candidate. And then it's a Kanban of like the statuses. So he goes from someone that's like a new applicant to like shortlisted to this to pass the interview, to pass this, to pass that. And then we can visually see where we are at any point in time, and build dashboards around it. So that's kind of what it required to go from like, hiring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people to hiring 70 people. The systems and the processes, and every day I'm looking for inefficiencies. Like, if we get 60 people that fill out our form, and we say that 30 of them are qualified, how can we make that number 30 actually the actual number of people that qualify for a job offer? So it's like, if they make it all the way to the end, we 30 people, passed the form, 30 people were worthy of a job offer, and we're like, okay, let's pick the cream of the crop. That's kind of the way that I've been thinking about hiring.
Thanks for walking through that. I'd love to hear. You mentioned a couple of the softwares. What other software from the hiring and onboarding process? You mentioned Monday, Jotform. What other software do you like that you use?
Yeah, so mainly, for right now for recruiting, we're mainly using Jotform and then Monday. Jotform integrates to Monday, so whenever someone fills it out, it puts it out there, and then we track the process. We also, use Manital with a different recruiter. So we have another recruiter that hiring. So Manital is almost like the way that we set up Monday manually. It's been, auto set up, and it's really good for hiring. If you guys are hiring a lot, I would look into that. We like to use the 16 personalities test a lot. And
I just took it yesterday.
What are you?
I forgot, but I'll have to pull it up. But keep talking. I literally just did it
I love it.
yesterday.
No,
Shout out to
and
Jason Silver who was like, Jeremy, you should really take this. They actually looked at the people they hired and had them do it. It's a free test actually. And actually what I thought was smart that he talked about was they gave it to some of their best clients to see what the clients personalities were to see how they could better communicate and better serve their clients. So I thought that was genius too.
wow,
But
that is genius. I
yeah,
love that. I love that a lot. And it could also like tell you who your best clients are and who your worst clients are. Like if you know, you start running into the same personality type. I noticed based on the actual role that personality type plays a huge role. So I started making every single candidate take that personality type. And then I'm also looking into like culture index. So if you, I mean, I took the culture index. I think it's pretty accurate for me. So if you guys are interested, one person that talks a lot about that is Stephen Pope. And there's actually like an episode you can like pretty much look up Stephen Pope, Mina, Elias, you know, culture index on YouTube, and you'll find like a whole video where he basically, you know, has me 3 minutes before the video live take the culture index text, and then he's like, okay, Mina, you're this, you're this, you're this, and it was everything was so spot on. And I mean, it's a great way to tell who the person is before you put them into your company.
I was an ESFJ-A. So
All right.
if you're looking at the screen here for anyone watching, I pulled it up here. We're at 16 personalities. You can take it for free, actually.
Yeah.
And this was mine. So I don't know what it means yet because I still have to look it over. But
I can tell you a brief, but console is like a very like a logical but calm person. You're like extroverted, so you like talking to people, but you're not like a hard driver. You're not. You're like you are judging, but like not judging in like the bad way, but like you're more like you observe and you judge based on what you see. Like very like intuitive kind of person. So I don't know. I don't know if is that close.
it's interesting. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I looked through some of this stuff, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I can tell a lot about a candidate right from the personality test. And I mean, for me, like
At
if
what
I'm
point
looking,
do you have them fill it out?
with the initial application. So
Got
if
it.
you're gonna do your initial whatever, like before you know you ever get in touch, like you fill out the job form, it's like please go here and fill out your 16 personalities test. Or actually, it's probably like after that with the test, with the first test, which is so it's you'll never make it to anyone live in our company without us knowing what your personality is. But those are the softwares that I use and that I like for hiring.
We only have a few more minutes. I'd love to. I've one last question. It's kind of a loaded question, but before I ask it, I want to point people. They can check out triviumco.com to learn more. And we've been showing it on the screen, so you can check that out to learn more about what Mina and his agency are doing. The last question I have is just, we get far with partners and tools and software. So I'd love to hear some of the software tools you use in kind of the Amazon space. And, I saw on your website, we have Tactical, over there. I know, I think it's Ephraim at Tactical.
Yeah.
Ephraim's great. What are some of the other partners or software that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, Helium 10 is one of my biggest. I mean, we spend a lot with them. They're a great tool for keyword research, tracking your keyword ranking, tracking your market share, looking at your competitors, seeing what they're doing, looking what keywords they're ranked for. Another one that comes out of that is Data Dive. Data Dive was initially built on Helium 10. Now they're kind of on their own. But Data Dive is a great tool for quantifying your SEO value for your title, your bullet points, your back end. They are also now integrated with ChatGPT so that you can take your keywords that you want to rank for, and it can write a title and bullet points that's optimized for a certain tone that has your brand name, whatever, with the highest value. So it's pretty cool. Another one that I use right now is Prophecy, Profasee. It is an AI repricing tool for like brands. So everyone knows like repricers for people who are like wholesaling, right? Like I'm selling a Nike shoe, you're selling a Nike shoe, your price is $27.99, I'm not $27.95, and then you're $27.93, and then I'm $27.91. So that's like, that type of repricer. This one is a tool that like will split test your price at like many different levels and tell you where you are making the most profit in terms of dollar amount. So
Chad Rubin,
shout
out to Chad. He'll be happy to hear that you use Prophecy.
Yeah, Chad is a solid guy. We use Carbon 6. Carbon 6 is a suite of tools. Notably seller investigators and Getida, by the way, we use both, but both of them are great for fighting with Amazon to get money back. And then Pixelme is incredible for driving Google traffic to Amazon for ranking. And this is something that's going to be up and coming. What else do I use for? Oh, My Real Profit is by far the biggest tool that we use, and it is our main analytics software. And so we've custom developed it, to show exactly what we want to show in terms of like how the data is presented, what's presented, the different parts of data. Like for example, a cost per session, which other tools don't use. Man, I mean, there's so many. I'm trying to remember.
Those are great. I appreciate it. I appreciate you kind of walking us through everything. I want to just thank you. Everyone, check out triviumco.com to learn more, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks, Mina. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.